Steve Hobbs says Bob Ferguson lost his mind on him. This wasn't some cordial phone call like, hey, yeah, this is a really messed up situation. Could you help me out and maybe just reverse the order on the ballot or something? No, he was angry. This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. I'm down 37 pounds on the program, and I lost most of that weight in just 2 months. There's no prepackaged meals, no counting calories, no drugs or injections. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. So we talked on the show last week and the week before about Bob Ferguson encouraging the Democratic Secretary of State to break the law when the two other Bobs had filed to run for office as Democrats. And he lost his mind, which I've said I would have too. I would have been livid if I was the candidate and they found two other Brandi Kruses to run against me and confuse the vote. I didn't agree with the tactic at all. However, his response to it was very, very telling when it came to who he is and what he's all about and how he would be as governor. Here is the most egregious request he made for special treatment.
After the drawing of straws on Friday afternoon, one of these Bob Fergusons will appear second on the ballot, the other will appear third on the ballot, and I appear number 13 on the ballot. So we're asking the Secretary of State to either move my name up, sort of second essentially, above those two, or move them down below me.
Yeah, so I said that at the time. I was like, that cannot be legal. That cannot be legal. But I wasn't an attorney, and then come to find out that Bob Ferguson hadn't just said that on cameras. His attorneys sent a letter to Steve Hobbs requesting the same thing. And Steve Hobbs, I give the Washington State Standard a lot of credit because they followed up with Steve Hobbs, and he told them he was kind of shocked that Bob Ferguson had asked him to do something that he clearly couldn't do under the law. What Bob Ferguson wanted him to do is put Washington State code, administrative code, above RCW, which, as Steve Hobbs pointed out in the Washington State Standard, it wouldn't take a first-year law student to know that you can't do that. So that all happened, and we covered it. But our friend, again, Jason Rantz, but I thought Jason Rantz only talked about Semi Bird. No, Jason Rantz has also been doing an awful lot of reporting, even more reporting on Bob Ferguson. So you can continue with your lies and manipulation, but we, of course, don't believe that. So he had done an article back on May 22nd, and I hadn't heard about it until yesterday. And I was like, holy moly, we got to do this on the show today. So it turns out that the phone call that Bob Ferguson made to Steve Hobbs, again, a member of his own party, because he said it in front of the media, wrote it in a letter, a demand letter, and then he picked up the phone and he called Steve Hobbs and asked him to do this. And Steve told him no. So Jason Rantz was able to review an audio recording where Steve Hobbs was caught on a hot mic. We don't know the circumstances around where he was and why he was recorded doing this, but Jason Rantz reviewed the audio recording, and in it, Steve Hobbs says Bob Ferguson lost his mind on him. This wasn't some cordial phone call like, hey, yeah, this is a really messed up situation. Could you help me out and maybe just reverse the order on the ballot or something? No, he was angry. And it says a lot about him. This from the, again, these quotes are from this audio, the leaked audio Jason Rantz reviewed. Quote from Steve Hobbs: "It was so stressful with the three Bobs and Attorney General Bob Ferguson yelling at me. Oh man, I was so mad," Hobbs said. "It's like I just took it because I get it. He's upset." But then Hobbs said he was asked to break the law. Quote, "And then he wanted me to reorder the ballot. I was like, I can't do it." The Secretary of State said in this audio, Ferguson responded, "Bullshit. You could push the envelope." Hobbs responded, "No, actually, I can't do that." Hobbs' retelling of the phone call was caught on an open mic. The Jason Rantz Show has reviewed the audio, and Hobbs, through a spokesperson, did not deny the veracity of the quotes. Think about that for a second. And this doesn't count towards the swear jar because I'm quoting the Attorney General. He calls the Secretary of State, asks him to break the law. Hobbs says, "I can't do that." And his response is the Attorney General, the chief law enforcer for the state of Washington, who wants to be the governor. His response is, "Bullshit, you could push the envelope." And that's not very worrisome. You know, I just got done talking about the hypocrisy of Republicans on the stolen valor issue. How about the hypocrisy of Democrats? when it comes to, our democracy is in peril and all these efforts from the right wing to interfere in our democratic process. You think that they have anything to say? The state Democratic Party has anything to say? Or has said jack about Bob Ferguson encouraging a Secretary of State of his own party to break the law and saying, bullshit, you can push the envelope? That's worse than the Semi-Bird stuff because Bob could actually win. So that's way worse. And he's the sitting Attorney General, pushing, encouraging, swearing at the Secretary of State in an effort to get him to break the law. So a little bit of follow-up and context. I'm sorry I hadn't seen that story. Somebody told me about it yesterday, and I was like, what? And I don't know, I'm assuming Jason didn't release the leaked audio because it would probably give away the source of it, but he reviewed it. And again, I trust Jason. He does a very impeccable job. So we'll be following up with Democrats to see if they have any issue whatsoever with what Bob Ferguson asked of Steve Hobbs. Because if we're being morally consistent here, that should be a really, really big problem. Crazy stuff.